if I think that the next step of the investigations now is to make the business case more complete, is to investigate the costs to really sell hydrogen and what's needed for the selling for hydrogen. Is that all? Is that good?
Yeah. I think the next step will be, the next phase of this project will be to see the business propositions and how to sell the hydrogen. Because as we discussed that there's going to be a hydrogen refueling station close to the grid. So it's better to sell. It's better to have the next phase to investigate what are the business propositions to sell the hydrogen to them.
Yeah. Okay. And is there a chance that producing heat for buildings or for houses is that perhaps an opportunity that's relevant, or is this out of the question?
No, you can ask me. It's not a problem, because I gave like a recommendation. Because if it's gonna take some time before the next phase, for example, if you're gonna set a business proposition with the refueling stations, it's gonna come up like after 1 year or 2 years. Meanwhile, you can use the produced hydrogen to mix it with natural gas and use for district heating, because a lot of this procedure has been followed a lot in the Netherlands. So I think that would be a recommendation which I could give you to mix it with natural gas and then use for district heating by using the same pipelines which is used.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe I can comment on that as well. I think if you produce pure hydrogen and then mix it again with natural gas, that's basically a waste of money, in my opinion.
Yeah,
you can sell it at a much higher price to a refueling station than when it's mixed. Then you pay only a small. Then you can only get a small premium compared to natural gas.
Yeah.
What an idea could be is to use to reuse the waste heat of the electrolyzer, because 40% of the energy that's required to run the electrolyzer goes to waste heat, and an alkaline electrolyzer runs at I don't know, 150, 200 degrees C, something like that. So I'm not sure exactly from the top of my head, but the waste heat could maybe be reused. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I can give a comment on that, because we also did in one of the minor projects we did about heat pumps for a residential place. So if you can see that rather than selling it to mixing with natural gas and use for district heating, it can be more profitable than to sell it to a fueling station, because the cost is about 1.5 to 2 euros per kg of hydrogen, which is more profitable than mixing it with natural gas. And I think the temperature produced, I can give the exact figure of the temperature produced by the electrolyzer. I think it's about 80 to 90 degrees Celsius of temperature. So yeah.
Is it the waste heat temperature, or is it the process temperature?
I think it's the process temperature. It's not the waste heat temperature. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Have you considered also an SOFC electrolyzer? Because that one is running at much higher temperatures, and then you can maybe make better use of the waste heat.
No, I wouldn't consider it.
Okay. Could be interesting to look into.
Look into, yeah, exactly. I will look into it. Sure. Thanks.
Welcome.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Because here in this area also a lot of people are coming around, and I think there's a kind of people when they hear about hydrogen, they hear danger. Can you tell me something about the danger or what kind of restriction it might be on in this area to produce hydrogen over here?
Yeah, sure. I think storing of hydrogen is like you have to compress the hydrogen, which risks a lot of storing of hydrogen is a very dangerous thing if it's not stored properly, because the storage tanks which comes now, because there are like several ways to store hydrogen, because we have a steel tank, a DEWA tank, or like for example we have like compressed cylinders. So we have to make sure that it's stored properly. If it's not stored properly, then it's going to be a bit hazardous. Yeah.
But we do need some permissions.
Yeah.
Additional to store this tanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Not in the screen.
What's it?
Not in the screen.
No, sorry. What is the time? When there are no more questions, we can go. We have a small break.
Yep.
If that's okay with you. I see some people are in the trains or other transport. We'll see you in 5 minutes.
Just left the train.
Okay.
So 3 o'clock sharp, yeah?
3 o'clock sharp. Perfect.
We'll be back.
We will be back. Okay. Yes.
Kiek, dankjewel.
Zie je heel erg borrelen.
Oersoep. Opvaller. Ah, cheers.
Je hebt de presentatie goed gevolgd, hè, Wouter?
I think I have to ask Walter.
Yeah.
How was the presentation?
How was the presentation to Wouter? Yeah.
Yeah, I just have to switch on the microphone. But it was a clear, a good presentation, I think, clear story.
Okay.
And it might be good adding later on, but I don't know. If there's any time to have a short discussion about it, because the items that were issued, the questions that were asked, are valid, and they also show that it's a very complex matter, which is not really possible to do within one, let's say, final thesis period. Your focus was mostly on the hardware and setting up the different models.
Yeah.
And there's an incredibly complex issue in trying to make most money or lose the least money in a setup like this. But maybe we can go into this later if there's any interest in finding out what we can do after, let's say how we can use the results in building further and having other questions answered.
Yeah, that was part of the program already, actually.
Then you're more in
Super good point, yeah.
then they can see you.
Yeah, I guess it was also a good preparation for Lakshan for your oral defense, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
Also has to happen soon.
Okay, now let's go on with the second part.
Aren't you missing somebody still?
Yeah, but they'll probably hop in later.
Yeah, okay.
Joost.
Okay, yeah, then we continue with the second part. As we were discussing already, it would be nice to have a small discussion on Lakshan's results and also further steps for the Grift, so we can get the most out of this session. I saw that everybody was asking critical questions already, so that's very good, and that's what we want to keep on doing. So maybe a very first discussion question I want to ask you is if there were any other questions that could be underlaying the acceleration question, so underlaying the question from Jan Willem. So Jan Willem's question was, everybody talks about hydrogen's potential at the Grift. We smartly connect sun, wind, and some additional form of storage. To what extent does a green hydrogen business case exist at the Grift? So was that actually the main question we were searching for? Was there something behind it? What do you think about this? Or what do you think about it?
No, I think we already discussed a little bit of this this question. As I heard from the invited persons, now we fastly go toward the business case. We discussed it earlier as well, but I think there is some more research needed. Maybe Wouter. He told me a few weeks ago as well that the research of Lakshan is actually a part of a bigger research program. Maybe you can tell us something about that bigger program, Wouter?
Yeah, you mean the Energielandschap de Grift?
Yeah, but also the program that you mentioned in the hydrogen lab of the Han. For the that you are looking for the potential of hydrogen in the total energy mix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is a more, let's say, generalized. There's a project running at the Han now that's called Enowatts, focused on the storage of energy in hydrogen and the energy coming from wind turbines, very similar to the Grift park, but without the solar. And what we're doing there is very much in line with what Lakshan has been doing here, building up mathematical models to be able to optimize the complete energy system with storage and generating electricity and also generating heat. So Lakshan's assignment was based on the existing, well, let's say, system configuration with storing the surplus electricity in batteries and using it to support the grid when needed or when required. The topic that Lakshan was working on is finding out what the implications are of replacing part of the battery storage capacity with hydrogen, which has certain advantages and certain disadvantages. And that is very much in line with what we're doing at the Hydrogen Lab in the Enowatts project. I don't know if that doesn't really answer the question that's put here, to what extent a green business hydrogen business case exists at the Grift. If I can answer that question in one go, at the moment there is hardly any business case that actually exists that uses hydrogen. And that has to do with the fact that now the equipment is still very expensive because there is no sort of mass market for that sort of equipment. But if nobody begins with using equipment, the further development to make the equipment better, but also to make the price go down, will not take place. So,
what do we need to break through to make a breakthrough in this hydrogen market, for example? Just start, or it's a chicken egg discussion. Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce it in Dutch, but or in English. But.
Yeah, that's right. And at the same time, think of ways of, let's say, limiting the losses, which in the future would mean optimizing. And that part, that is why modeling is very important and why that needs to be expanded also, because if you can play the electricity market, which of course different companies like Recoy, for instance, know probably exactly what is needed for that. It means you have a possibility of, well, let's say trading electricity and gaining some profit there. Hydrogen has the potential of storing much bigger amounts of energy than you should do or could do with batteries. So in that way, you can set up a, let's say, a business case, more or less grid independent local energy system, or sell the hydrogen at a refueling station. Of course, the value of the hydrogen, even though somebody at a refueling station is willing to pay 10 euros per kilogram, because he will compare what he's paying with what he would be paying if he would refill with gasoline or diesel. But the realistic market value of hydrogen is no more than what the hydrogen costs now if it's made out of natural gas or whatever, which is about, yeah, a little over 1.5 euros per kilogram. So that means that if you can set this up as a demonstration site, then it's well reasonable to focus on the 10 euros per kilogram and thereby make money there. And that means there can be optimized a lot more here. This was not part of Lakshan's assignment, but the model itself can be expanded to find out how to to channel the electricity well streams, if I can call it that, in such a way that you could more play the market instead of what is assumed here is that you want the battery full enough to have enough capacity if there's no wind and no sun. But in that way you can reduce the losses by supplying the hydrogen to the refueling station and making sure that there's enough storage there to be able to refill all the cars that come by. So there's a lot more work that can be done based on the results that are achieved here in the study.
Okay. Sjoerd, your colleague, Robert, He has been studying here on the Gift as well, especially on a part of the storage, and he recommended that a dimensioning of storage of lithium about 3 megawatt hours. When you compare the study of Lakshan with your own study, what do you see? What are the differences by directions?
Yeah, that's a difficult question to answer, because the goal of the optimization that Lakshan has done was very different than from ours. Our goal was to try to find the best possible business case for a lithium-ion battery at that location, given the market prices on the electricity market. And there we try to find the optimum capacity and power capacity and energy capacity of the battery. And that's a completely different question than Lakshan tried to answer. Adding to what Wouter just said, I couldn't agree more. So the only thing that I think I can add to that is if you look at potential applications for hydrogen, and we did some studies on that as well. I think the best way to start is looking at applications that can only become sustainable with hydrogen. So, for example, in the steel industry, or in if it's long haul shipping, these type of applications, there is no other viable alternative. And if we really believe in the climate agreement, Paris Climate Agreement, these sectors will have to move, and that's also what you're now seeing in the steel sector, for example, that the first companies are already shifting towards using hydrogen in Sweden, for example. And there is no alternative. So hydrogen, if you want to accomplish the goals of Paris, then you have to use hydrogen, and the cheapest way to produce hydrogen in a green way there, that's the only option they have. So I think the location also where you are going to produce the hydrogen is really important. So I'm not sure if, well, there's probably no steel manufacturing near Nijmegen, unfortunately, but maybe there is some shipping. I know there are companies focusing on binnenvaart. I don't know the English translation for that, but there are companies working on that. So maybe that's also an option to explore.
Yeah. If I can add one thing, Sjoerd, that is, so I agree with you that you have to use it in the best possible way. The problem with the steel production is they use such an immense amount of hydrogen, that it is not something which you can produce locally. The reason why there are many different projects, well, in a way similar to this, where is that the main, let's say, of course, for the Paris Agreement, of course, a lot has to be done, should have been done actually, and we will be doing a lot more in the next couple of years. The thing is that now already where the limitations are the most visible or noticeable is in the grid capacity, due to the fact that there is a very limited percentage of our total energy usage which comes from solar and wind energy. But even then, the grid has a congestion problem at different localities. And if you look at it that way, using energy storage, either in batteries or in hydrogen, if you want to store larger amounts, could solve a real problem locally, which would give an added value to the hydrogen that you produce. And the difficult thing there is it does not add up to a business case directly, because the grid companies, or how do you call it, the Leanders and Tenets, have no possibility of changing energy prices in such a way that it actually pays to store locally, even though you solve a problem there. So I think it's also important that if you can show that it's possible to have a bigger energy production here from the sun and the wind than your grid connection can handle, you can make a calculation of what it would have meant, what you should do for the pricing of the, let's say, the trade in electricity to make it feasible economically to actually produce hydrogen or to have a very big battery storage. So it can also lead to recommendations for the government to, let's say, change the way that the grid companies now have to work, and make it interesting enough to locally solve the problems, and thereby be able to use more of the sustainable energy than is the case now. Yeah. In this case, I think it's a figure from a couple of years ago that in the UK and in Germany there was 1 billion euros was wasted, not used, of the sun and wind energy produced because there was no user at the time, or the grid connection was not capable of handling.
Yeah.
And if you look, and that is,
the difficulty there is that the congestion takes place, not all the time, and you need a lot of hours to run your electrolyzer in an economic way.
Yeah.
But I agree. It's certainly maybe the best option to look at it right now. Yeah. Because congestion is really a serious problem. Last week there was a report that the tenants, or the tenant and the DSOs need to invest 102 billion euros up to 2050 in strengthening the grid, which would mean a 54% increase for the grid tariffs. This is an immense amount, of course. So, and it's really a serious problem.
I agree. I agree. I want to make a remark. I agree. I think the grid problems are huge, and they will be much huger, much bigger the next years. So we have to find the solutions off the grids. We perhaps another view from us in our region, the Limes. We have a waste disposal factory, the AVR we call it, and we investigated for the AVR the production of hydrogen and the customers such as logistics companies or brick factories, and we investigated if they were able and they are willing to buy hydrogen the next years. And I think there's a market, but there's a huge market, but it has to be explored, and it has to be you have to get grip on it, and perhaps a regional hydrogen agenda would be possible if because I know things as the economic board or the provincie Gelderland, they are looking for concrete chances and projects such as this. So perhaps we have to connect them more than we are doing now.
Yeah, there actually, I missed it myself, but there actually was a networking sort of online conference from the provincie Gelderland yesterday. actually trying to bring together all the different initiatives there are at this level.
Yeah. So, well, it's a perspective that you have to take the chances that they are offering, perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's very good to see that the last couple of years there has been a lot more. Let's say I think it's the realization that nobody can do this on its own. So we need each other to be able to work us towards the results of the Paris Agreement. In other words, there is in the past, I think many companies covered up their technology, but as it is now, I think all the parties that are involved realize that they need to share their own experience with other companies as well to speed up the transition there, which I think is good. There's a lot to learn from the different initiatives, and actually that is also a part of the Energielandschap de Grift project. Aside from this specific location, there we will be looking at more. Yeah, I'm not allowed to call it a blueprint anymore because that tends towards a sort of economical look at it. But to sort of generalize the results and the lessons learned in such a way that it can be used as a tool for different locations that, well, in one way or another look similar to this one, to make better choices at the beginning of setting up the project.
Okay. Pim, you are joining as well. You have an overview of different locations and production areas. Can you tell us something about your point of view on this topic, hydrogen potentials, and do you want it, or do you see a market upcoming, or yeah?
Yeah. Good evening. Good afternoon, everybody. It depends on what you guys were discussing, in my opinion, a way to get grid congestion and grid connections more stable and more organized by deploying hydrogen in the system. And I'm afraid that's not the main purpose for hydrogen at this stage. What I understood is that you need a lot of uptime in your electrolyzer. And that's exactly what you don't have in an unpredictable grid connection and grid congestion stage. And so there are a lot of projects. Congestion is a big issue, like Sjoerd said. And we have to find something, but I'm afraid with the current insights, and the insights showed this earlier this evening, that hydrogen is not the current solution to the grid congestion and grid instability, and also to grid, mainly due to the fact that the sources like wind and also solar are that kind of unpredictability, which is a part of causing that grid congestion. So that's not sure I'm going with this answer, but I think it's a step, a big step, but it's not the final solution. And maybe the final solution is to bring it back into electricity. Yeah? That's maybe a way, but something like that.
Maybe Lakshan can answer that question.
Yeah, sure. I think you came up with the thing that it has to be converted back to electricity, right?
Right.
In the last.
That's a different scenario, I guess.
Yeah, because here, even in this project, we also did a thing to make sure that it becomes back to electricity. And then that's how we come by using a fuel cell in the system. So from which the hydrogen can be converted back to electricity by using a fuel cell. So which can be used to serve the grid. I would tell that fuel cell is an opportunity, is a possibility which can be used to get back to the electricity, because the storage of hydrogen can be used for long-term storages, and batteries can be used for short-term storages, because hydrogen storage can be kept for longer days without degradation. But for example, the battery starts degrading after a few months. So it's better to use lithium-ion batteries for short-term storages and hydrogen for long-term storages, and then you can store it in the hydrogen tank. And then when you require some electricity or when there's a demand, you can use a fuel cell to convert it back into electricity and then supply the demand.
Yep, I understood that, and I think that's one of the solutions. But it's from a very technical point of view, and I think your research was really techno-economic, in a sense that we are looking for, let's say, midterm solutions to get more renewable energy connected to the grid.
Okay.
That's, I think, the main purpose of the high over purpose within the existing networks, which takes a lot of time to get that more organized with the network operators, in our case, we all, to get it organized on a level that there is more capacity to get more unpredictable renewable sources connected to the grid. Then there must be something in between, and that's a technical solution. So I agree on that, but it's also a social, technical, economic aspect to it, and maybe there the question comes into play: is this really, let's say, a midterm solution for the problem we are facing right now? I agree from the technical part of view. I see that, and I think that's a big step. But can we deploy it? Can we make it feasible? Can we? And we don't have to earn money on it, but there's nobody willing to spend a lot of to invest every year again on a not technical solution which is costing a lot of money. That's I think this the search, maybe not research, but more research on how can we get that implemented, or can we find a solution to that?
Yeah, and I think part of that solution already is in the subsidies that there are for being able to set up, for instance, a project like this with an energy storage system, to be able to learn and also to break the chicken and egg cycle. So there, let's say in that way, there is stimulated that these sort of, well, let's say financial experiments, which it basically is, we'll probably end up losing money here if it weren't for the possibility to cover the losses there by the subsidies that are needed now because the technology is so expensive.
Yeah.
And the same, we looked into a business case for a big company that had, I think, something like 10 megawatt of solar panels on their own buildings, with the idea of generating hydrogen to be able to use it as fuel for their own trucks in this case.
Exactly. I see that case. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Another
observation. It turned out, looking at the electricity prices, that what was paid for the electricity was a rate of something, I think, like 6 cents per kilowatt hour. While any solar energy that was produced and put into the grid again, supplied something like somewhere between 15 and 20 cents per kilowatt hour. So in that case, there was not much of a stimulus to be using the surplus electricity for generating hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
But in that case, you could use an alkaline electrolyzer running on a sort of steady key continuously, but then powered from the grid. And at the same time, use your solar energy for something different. And it's a bit difficult case because there it's not about saving energy, about using more solar energy, but it's about minimizing the losses, where there is a big price difference between the electricity going one way and the electricity going the other way. But in that case, it is still possible to set up a sort of test site for gaining experience on this technology field. But it is a difficult matter to find a sort of niche unit where hydrogen actually is cheaper than any other option. And the only place I know there has nothing to do with the grid stability, but it has to do with the logistics inside the buildings, and that's the 24-hour logistics center that are run with forklifts on batteries. And there it is cheaper to have them running on hydrogen. Because in that way they can be refueled in a couple of minutes, and otherwise you would need 3 battery packs that would need to be replaced every time within a shift and charged somewhere. But in the Netherlands, I think the logistics center are not as big as they are in the US or in some other parts of Europe. But that is as far as I know, the only business case that solves itself.
I was just thinking, it crosses my mind when talking about. I think we're discussing here how you can deploy hydrogen as technology in relation to the grid connection. And there are 2 ways here. You make either hydrogen of it, or you're going to use it as storage. Well, what we're facing in a lot of projects at the moment is that there is not the capacity on, let's say your project is 5 to 10 megawatts, your solar project, either your wind farm. But the network operators, like Leander and Nexus as well, they have a lot of problems in that, especially in that size, between 5 and 10 megawatts, between 5 and 10 MVA. If you can reduce the grid connection, let's say on a solar project, which is 5 megawatt peak in nameplate size, you can reduce the grid connection to, let's say, 2 MVA by having a hydrogen cycle in between. I think that might be a case. So during the night there's no sun, so you can make use of that grid connection for 8,760 hours a year. But maybe there is a solution, or there's maybe a new opportunity to get hydrogen integrated in your project and have a viable case with the outlook that there is that you can get more and stable electricity connected to the grid, and more locally as well. I'm not sure if this is it's worthwhile a thought.
It's a new route. Okay.
And then when I think about it, then you are producing more hydrogen local. That's you because you are not you're reducing from 5 or 10 megawatt to 2 megawatt.
Yep.
And the difference is for producing hydrogen. Or
but I can imagine.
So
we have only 2 megawatts of a grid connection, but we have a 5 megawatt solar project. Maybe the first megawatt is just a peak, so you only need it in those months, like now and up till maybe the end of June. So what you're looking for is 4 megawatts of grid connection. 2 megawatts is available in the system. You take a 2 megawatt electrolyzer. During the peak or during the overload of the 2 megawatts, you store it. It's really like a storage, and you have a 2 megawatt fuel cell, which using the grid connection during the night when there's no sun at all. You add a cycle to it. You add a cycle to your solar project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could be a next step for investigation, for research. Toch?
Ja. Dat denk ik, ja.
And it's an interesting way of thinking. Maybe we can
go to the next discussion statement. Yeah.
There are some.
Yeah, sure. Because now we were thinking quite in general terms. We also wanted to think about the Gift in specific, so that's why we prepared this discussion statement. What could be possible follow-up steps at the Gift regarding hydrogen? So that can be many, and it would also be interesting to think about, okay, what should be the first steps that we should go through if we want to apply a hydrogen business case at the Gift. So what is your opinion on that?
In general, or my opinion?
In general, but it could also be your opinion, Pim. Feel free to take lead.
No, well, I think the grid is one of those areas where the grid is for the next 2-3 years constrained. And this is also a location where we have a lot of sources. We do now have a wind farm. It's not a wind farm, but a wind project. And we do have a solar project of 5 megawatts. And we're already starting to curtail the solar project due to the fact that we don't have a grid connection. But what is happening there now at the moment is there is an additional 4 megawatts in planning, and I expect that we do have the additional 4 megawatts planning granted, just before the SDA is going to open in this spring of fall. We also have an additional 2.5 megawatts of turbines, maybe even 5 megawatts, 2 turbines, and there's no way that we can get that connected to the grid. And that's maybe the first step. Can we make hydrogen out of it, and let's see it as a product in itself, and then sell it as green hydrogen on the market, or even being part of a bigger movement and get it into the transport in the automotive scene, because you're right beside a highway, and within 2 or 3 years, maybe 5 years, this is a main route between Rotterdam and Germany. So there's a solution to that. There is a lot of logistics, especially at the neighboring areas. So maybe we can invite or attract somebody to have a deeper look into having hydrogen being used on Park 15. What's the name of it? But it's also an opportunity maybe to see if we can work on a solution that there is more room to deliver electricity in that area without having the grid connection, the network being expanded. As long as we can show and indicate and prove that we have a reliable source of energy, there's no request for a grid connection any longer. They can connect in our own system, and maybe there is a short-term possibility to get something done on this.
Mm-hmm.
The main problem there is that Leander already started, especially in our investment scheme, to get that grid constraint in Nijmegen North, to get it organized by having a new window station.
That will be in 2023-4-5. More or less.
That's what it looks right now. Yeah.
One question for Bijsterhuizen, because maybe you have been doing some research. I saw some sessions coming along on Bijsterhuizen with hydrogen and a hydrogen fuel station. On the telephone, you were mentioning also a fuel station on the energy terrein. What has been researched on these two spots? Do you know something about these researches and the results of them?
We were in contact with, I forgot his name, from the Provincie Gelderland, who's involved in for 10 provinces of Holland for logistics, the logistic area. So he was talking about Rotterdam and Germany, and that Nijmegen, or better Bijsterhuizen, was the best location for a fuel and hydrogen fuel station. Yep. For the long distance truck logistics, the logistics movement, and it is there is also in the area of Groesbeek, there's a planning of a big solar field, and they cannot connect it to the grid. And they are searching for also to put it in hydrogen and to sell it somewhere. Actually, exactly the same discussion we had a minute ago. And this is picked up by the Rijk van Nijmegen, an organization, and they connected to us. And I forgot the name. And that was a discussion we are involved in. From Bijshuis is a big logistic industrial area with a big need of fuel, and also on a good location for from Rotterdam to Germany for the long distance logistics movement. So how can we work together? How can we click this together? And you know that also there are 3 windmills planned on the border from on Bijshuis. So also I was thinking about what will happen with the surplus of this energy. The same discussion we had today. And I was thinking also about electrolyzers. I worked in that industry a long time ago, but only for another end product. I'm thinking we have to connect. There are so many organizations working on this issue, and also in this area, in Gelderland and also Nijmegen, Arnhem. So we have to connect to each other, and we have to work together, because we are spending a lot of energy and not working together. And I think we have to work more and more together to make bigger steps. And so therefore I'm interested because I think if we as an industrial area wants to keep up on the highest level, we need to have a filling station where we can supply all needs of fuel. So not only the original, the ones we have on this moment, but also hydrogen, but also maybe all types of gases what will be in between LNG and that types of fuel. So we need a filling station, fill-up station on Bijshuis, otherwise we are not in a high class bedrijventerrein. And that's why we are involved in this.
And have there been some calculations from? I think you were mentioning about the solar field of Millingen, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. The big one. But there are the possibilities for the electricity to get it towards Bijsterhuizen.
No, they were thinking some students from the University of the Rabat University looked in it, and they did research on it. Okay. And the idea was to transport it from Millingen to Bijsterhuizen, but that's too costly, and you cannot sell it. The price will be too high, but still there's a problem. They want to get there a big solar field in Millingen, but what will you do with the electricity if you cannot connect it to the grid? You have to find a solution for that. So they are searching for a solution, and we were maybe a customer to get to fill up the trucks with hydrogen, but I think it's not a right business case.
And what about the developments on the NG terrain? There were, because I think it's maybe in a bird flow of 1 kilometer from Bijsterhuizen to the NG.
Yeah, I was surprised to read it in the Gelderlander that on the old engine facility they were planning to get a filling station for filling up station for hydrogen. And also for roads, for cars and trucks. And then you know they're everywhere. Everybody is doing things and thinking about a new fuels or new way of electricity. But there is no coordination. Everybody is doing something, and we are not working together. So that's correct. It's very close to Bijsterhuizen. So, and why you put something like this in the city? Because he wants to keep the trucks outside of the city and not inside the city.
Yeah.
But also there, this area is rebuilt. The big electrical station or electrical is gone, and they want to put there a new technology in. And I think also there will be solar fields over there, and yeah, I don't know exactly what they want to do with that. It could be also for waterway because you are very close to the Waal. But and over there, they have to do also something with the shipping on the Waal and the exhaust they get. So
Okay.
a lot of things to do, but no coordination, I believe.
Okay. You mentioned the turbines in Bijsterhuizen/Wiegje. I think Pim is also connected to these developments.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with? Question to Pim. What are you going to do with your electricity in Wiegje?
In Wiegje, in Wiegje we still have the plan to develop not only a wind park of 3 turbines, 10 megawatts, but also to do the next steps beyond that, to add solar to it, so you get the cable pooling involved, but also, and that's where Peter I think is referring to get a part of the electricity sourced for a hydrogen plant if it's going to be there. What we can do and whatever you have to do, to the left, to the right, regardless, we have to get this project connected to the grid. I think we are it's too early in all the innovative ways of getting a project connected to the grid or not to connect it to the grid. It's also maybe we can do something on Bijsterhuizen itself to leave all the electricity on Bijsterhuizen if there is a plan for that. We're working on a plan like that in Breda, in Hazeldonk, to get let's say an off-grid area which we can fuel with turbines and solar projects and have storage in between. But maybe in time we are too close to finish with the turbine project in order to get that solved. But a part of it can be used for the plans of Peter, of course.
Right.
Next. Okay, and
we're okay.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So yeah, the follow-up steps at the grid we were just discussing. We were also thinking, well, but we were kind of discussing this already, but maybe somebody wants to make an addition. I don't know. Or, maybe somebody wants to make an addition still that the lessons learned today. So about GIFT, about Bakshan, can we also put that to a broader context to other energy landscapes? Does anybody still want to make a note on that? I mean, quite a lot was said already, of course.
Yeah, if I may, about the GRIFT context. I think it's a possibility to connect to my colleague Jos de Bruin. I know that he is with Bart Blokland and Jos de Bruin. They are investigating in Amsterdam the solution for producing and storage of sustainable energy on business parks that are not connected, and they will not be connected with the grid. And they are investigating solutions with Spectral and with Alliander, who is, I think, in the region of Amsterdam, a bit more progressive than in our region. So I think it's a chance to connect with them and look what they they probably find out solutions that there are perhaps things to do on the grid.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe one question, from the Green Alliances, you're also connected to the Gelderse Island before.
Yeah.
Are some developments on this topic on the Gelderse Island, if you know?
Now the local government has given me hoe noem je dat, a project to look into it and to investigate the initiatives on local on sustainable energy on the Gelderse Island, zeg maar. And to Gelderse Island.
Palm trees and boats.
Yeah, so I will be back on that the next weeks with you. Yeah, but it's not concrete for the time being now. No.
Okay. Any other researches or applications on this topic? Yeah, Pim mentioned already Hazeldonk. Are there any things going on in Ter Heide on this topic, if you know?
You're muted, Pim.
In Ter Heide, we are actually looking more in power to heat solutions to get the grid connection resolved. We do know that the chairman of the local cooperative, he's a big fan of hydrogen, but for the time being, it's more practical, it's more down to earth. We have electricity, we have heat, or we need heat, and that's what we have there in the package. And the combination of the like heat conversion, power to heat, added with a large heat storage, that's enough flexibility to get that grid situation sorted for a wind turbine, with a wind turbine and the solar project.
All right. More? Anything more? Do you want to know something from the attendees?
Yeah.
No.
No, not now. Okay.
Not yet.
Maybe just go on and.
Yeah. Do you guys still want to get anything off your chest? Because otherwise we will wrap up. No? Okay, well, let's go for a wrap up then. The wrap up. There we are. Yeah, well, once again, thank you for attending this session and also this very interesting discussion we had. It took in total almost 2 hours, so it says enough, I think. That was enough to discuss. Lakshan, thank you for presenting. Yeah. I will send Lakshan's details via email, I think. If that's possible. Yeah. So if you come up with any kind of job that Lakshan might be applicable for, he is available in June. So yeah, I will send his details.
Well, we'll send the presentation and we put the details of Lakshan into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. Yeah. We will also summarize this session and we will put it on gildevanversnellers.nl. There you can find the summary. And if you were not yet a member of the Gilde van Versnellers yet, and you're interested in these kind of projects, but also any other energy projects, please subscribe to the Gilde. You can also do that on gildevanversnellers.nl. Yeah, maybe a last question to you. Yeah, what's the setup of this session? Like, so the presentation of Lakshan, this acceleration question and this discussion, was this what you expected?
For me, it was. I missed the beer it's more difficult with such as this environment. But well, I think it was good. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Next time we will provide you some beer, Wim.
That I will remember.
Yeah.
I noticed the beer is gone here in the office.
What?
The beer is
Whoa.
gone.
The beer is gone. Yeah, I took it.
Did you left anything for that indeed here in the office?
No.
No.
We are going to have a big after party, you know. Okay, let's wrap it up then. Huh?
Yeah.
No.
Thank you once again. See you next time.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Yeah. Woo.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, I know the technical side of things.
Right. Suppose.
En that's pauze. Stop
Lekker eruit.
Oké, ja. Ciao, Pip.
Knopje, onder tv zit een knopje. Kun je gewoon 1 keer alles uitzetten.
Ja, maar dat mag niet.
Dat mag niet.
Kim zei dat we iets moesten opslaan.
Oh ja. Wacht joh. Ja, wat doen we hier? Wat doen we nou? Telefoon. Hey, mannen bedankt. Succes.
Ciao, ciao.